Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Keppel. I'm here for Poppystamps today. I wanted to show you 3 ways to make faux frosting on die cuts for cards. So Poppystamps has this brand new die called Frosted Cake, and you cut out the little dripped frosting over the little layered pieces of cake. And so I wanted to show you 3 different ways to embellish those frosting die cuts so that they look like real frosting. So the first thing we're going to do for a couple of these cards is cut out a double-stitched scalloped rectangle frame. These are also new from Poppystamps. You get 4 different dies in variegated sizes in that pack of dies, and they have double stitching around the scallops. And they cut out a frame, so you have that pretty scallop frame, and then the inside is the rectangle. So this is the frosted cake dies. You can see there are 4 dies in there. There's 2 layers of frosting and 2 layers of cake that have kind of stitched elements on them as well. Really, really cute, super pretty, and so easy to put together and make a fabulous looking cake. So now I'm cutting out the 2 different cake slices. And you could cut these out of 2 different colors. You could cut them out of the same color. I'm cutting the yellow for the cake and then white for the frosting. And I'm going to decorate those white cardstock frostings in 3 different ways. The first way, I'm going to use Nouveau crystal drops. This is a really, really simple technique. It does add some shine, also a little bit of texture and dimension to those frosting die cuts. So you can see that all I'm doing is holding down the little tip of the end there and then just applying my Nouveau crystal drops all over that frosting. And I'm not trying to be super smooth about it because I do want a little bit of that texture that's going to make it look a little bit more real and a little less like it is some type of glue or adhesive. So I'm going to set those aside to dry, and then you can see that when they are dry, they apply really, really nicely, and they do add a ton of shine to that frosted layer cake as well. Okay, so the next way to embellish your frosting is to use modeling paste. And for the modeling paste, I just grabbed a palette knife and I'm frosting it onto that little piece of frosting just like I would on a cookie or a cupcake. And I like the textured look again, so I'm not trying to run a credit card over it or make it really smooth and even. I want to have lots of texture because once that dries, that will look more like a traditional frosting. So you can see I was struggling a little bit with that top piece there. It stuck to my finger, so you really want to make sure that you're holding just the edges there. You could use tweezers or something like that, which you'll see I use later, but for now it was just fine to use it that way. And so for this card, once those modeling paste layers are dry, you can just flip them over and apply your traditional adhesive. I'm using a tape runner here to put them down on that frosted cake. So you can see how the modeling paste turns out as frosting. Less shine than the Nouveau crystal drops, but lots of texture. The third way to create faux frosting is to use heat embossing with clear embossing powders. Now you don't want a fine detail embossing powder for this technique. You want something with larger grains. So this one from Wow is called the Ultra High, and basically all I'm doing is taking the die cut and rubbing it onto my Versamark embossing ink pad and then sprinkling that really chunky embossing powder on top that is clear, and then I'm going to heat set it. So when you're heat setting this, you want to use a tweezer or something to hold it so it doesn't fly away like that. But you can see that it does really add some dimension and shine and a little bit of texture. I wanted more, so I went back and did the whole process again. And I did it even a 3rd time, which I'm not going to show you because it's the same exact thing. Once the die cut cools, just wipe it through the Versamark pad and then add that nice chunky embossing powder and then heat set. Okay, so it's time to put the card together. So I'm going to take that double-stitched scalloped rectangle frame and put it on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch top folding white note card. Then I'm going to insert a different piece of pattern paper from the inside of that rectangle. And then I'm going to start layering up my frosting, and these are the embossing powder frostings. And I'm just going to use some tape runner again to adhere them to the pieces of cake. Now I've grabbed a sentiment stamp set from Poppystamps. It's called Wishing You the Best. It's really great because it has 3 large script sentiments and then some smaller type fonts as well that you can combine really well. So I stamped out It's Your Birthday, that's the type font, and then I stamped out the Smile script font, and I'm going to start stacking everything together. Right now, I thought I would keep the smile as a strip, but turns out I didn't like the way it was fitting on the card, so I cut around it and then I added some foam tape behind it, and I'm going to pop it up right there on top of the cake. And then I'm going to add a little stitched die cut heart from the Splendid Stitched Hearts craft die. I'm going to take a couple more of those hearts from that same die and pop a couple up and put a couple tucked behind the cake and behind the smile sentiment as well for my embellishments. So this is a really great way to include a couple of different dies on one card and then do some stamping as well. So that is 3 different ways to create faux frosting for this layered cake, frosted cake die. One way was using Nouveau Crystal drops, then another was using modeling paste, and then finally we did the heat embossing with chunky clear embossing powder. So if you're interested in the products that I use, they'll all be linked down below. You can click here to subscribe to my YouTube channel or click over there to visit my blog. There'll be a couple of different videos here from Poppystamps that you can check out if you're interested in the new dies or some of the older dies as well. I want to thank you so much for stopping by today. Have a great day.